Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Yasmin, and I'm a business development manager here at FE Fund Info, and I'll be hosting your Demo Day Wednesday this week. I'll just give it another couple of minutes before we get started to let everybody else join. But as per the title, we'll be touching on FE Analytics. We might kind of brush on a few other of the solutions, but today is to introduce you to the FE Analytics system, whether that's you're completely new to the system or you're just sort of wanting to brush up on your knowledge. Next week's Demo Day Wednesday is, I think it's an introduction to goal-based financial planning. So feel free to sign up for that one. And then there's an extended schedule as well on the Demo Day Wednesday page. So yeah, feel free to check that one out, but we'll just give it a couple more moments before we get started. So I'll quickly go through the agenda whilst we wait. But here for the next sort of half an hour or so, these are the sort of bits and pieces that we'll be going through. So we'll firstly start with the navigation of FE Analytics. I'll show you how to make your way around the system and just basically get started with FEA. Then comparisons, they're obviously a huge part of the advice journey. So in turn, a huge part of FE Analytics. And we'll go through how to sort of compare things like a client's existing solution versus a proposed solution, and then how to generate reports off the back of that. We'll also go through general reports, so the various different reporting types available within the system once you have a portfolio you're sort of working on, or as I said, comparison in terms of the client's existing versus proposed. Oop. We'll then go through risk profiling. So basically going through the end-to-end journey we've created within the system once you are sort of onboarding the client. And then integrations, so anything from taking data from another software, whether that's outside of the FE ecosystem, like your back office or your platform, or a tool within the ecosystem, so sort of things like FE Cash Calc and Advisor Asset, whether that's pushing information into FE Analytics or vice versa. I'll sort of touch on that just throughout, where you might be sort of bringing information in and out of other tools. And then finally, so throughout the demo, feel free to chuck in any questions. I believe the chat for questions is in the top right-hand corner. So feel free to ask any questions throughout, and then hopefully we'll have a chance at the end to answer, or one of my colleagues might be able to answer throughout as well. But if there's anything that we don't sort of get to touch on, we'll make sure to follow up with a answer after the demo. So just before we start and jump into FE Analytics, I just want to take a moment to take a step back and basically see where FE Analytics slots into the ecosystem. So as you can see from this lovely side, predominantly we are a data house. We aggregate, we collect, we validate, and we clean data. And as you can see, our clients are 1,000 plus fund managers, which include 100% of the top 10 and 60% of the top 100 asset managers by AUM. We work with 120 plus banks and brokers, platforms, life and pension, and then obviously where you guys sit in, so sort of financial advice and power planning firms. And then as we are, obviously we're collecting the data, we're validating, we're cleaning it all of ourselves, we can sort of count on both sides of a relatively fragmented market to service our clients. Now, who I'm referring to is obviously sort of the asset management side and then the wealth management side. So basically we are sort of the bridge between both sides of the market. So essentially you guys in the wealth management side can count on us that we've validated, collected and cleaned the data directly from the source itself. And sort of, yeah, we're the trusted data source. So now we're going to go into the demo. I'm just going to load up my FE Analytics screen here. So Onto FE Analytics, which is our research tool. As you can see from the screen, hopefully it's familiar if you are currently using it, or maybe you're exploring it at the minute. So this might all be brand new, but basically what you can see, hopefully, is our lovely interface, which in the background is powered by an enormous database of 300,000 plus funds, lots of model portfolios, sectors, indices, as you can see at the top there. How I like to look at analytics is essentially in two sections. So you have your input section on the left hand side and the output section on the right hand side. So on the left is basically where we tell the system what data we're looking to use. Are we looking for a fund? Are we looking for a sector, an index, a portfolio? And basically then on the right, we can say what we want to do with it. So do we want to create a chart, a table, a report, and kind of go from there with that. So just to start, obviously, we're going to go through the navigation aspect of things. So to begin, I'm just going to simply search for a fund. Just going to find a code here. So there are two ways in which you can look for a fund. So the first thing you can do is sort of go through these tabs here and find your fund basically by filtering by universe, management group, sector, and then touching on this the drop down here. So just quickly sort of search an example within here to show you sort of what that looks like. And then I can add a fund to my active list. You can also search for any fund if you have a sort of identifier code or a name using this magnifying glass up here. So you can use ISINs, you can use CDOLs, you can use city codes, and as I said, you can sort of chuck in a bit of a name as well if you have that handy. So I'm just going to wait for that to load here. Now, potentially what I should have done is popped in the code identifier here rather than searching on the magnifying glass first, but you get the idea. So I can just add this here as an instrument into our active list. So now we've got two funds. You could have come about both of them in the same way, but that's just two different ways of sort of searching for it. Now, once I've added these to my list, I have an input, which means that I'll be able to start generating outputs. But before we do this, there's a couple of bits of basic fund information that I can locate fairly quickly from these icons. So for example, I can have a look at the fact sheets just by clicking on to that icon there, and that'll generate a full sort of fact sheet that you'll expect to see from a fund there. Just going through there, obviously there's the various tabs at the top to go through various different bits and pieces. You can export, you can save against research and things like that. You can also create alerts. So if this is a fund that's part of your CIP and you're keen to be alerted on any particular movements, you can select that here. You can sort of select your different parameters and what basically you want to be alerted for basically. And this will just come straight through to your email address. And now we can, as I said, we can start creating output. So I'll just use one fund for now. Doesn't really matter which one. So basically I can create a very basic performance line chart if I would like. So I will just do start of data and generate a chart from here. Perfect. And you can save this again against clients if this is research for a specific client, or you can make this into a PDF, export this out, pop it into your reports, anything you kind of are keen to do with this performance line chart. And yeah, it will show up from there. Now, realistically, the way that most people will be using analytics is probably to access portfolios, whether that's MPS solutions or your range or a client's existing portfolio. So I can jump into the portfolio tab across at the top. Here's where I'll be able to basically find portfolios I've got saved on the system. So if I have, so I can import portfolios from IO or also other back office systems, or yeah, I everything would appear here, whether it's portfolios that I've created myself, whether it's MPS portfolios that I've access to. So you'll see here I have access to all the FEI portfolios. But if you are keen to sort of get access to other MPS providers, all you're going to want to do is pop into portfolio tools and go down here to the MPS directory. And here you would be able to request basically activation from any of these providers. So let's say I wanted to access AJ Bell's portfolios, for example, I can select activate me or to request more info. And before you get to that stage, just before we continue, we actually launched the MPS Universe last week, I believe it was. So you now have access to high-level data of sort of MPS solutions within within our system, essentially being able to carry out high-level research before you do get to that stage where maybe you want to request activation from specific providers. But yeah, basically anything that you have access to through the MPS directory, anything that you've imported in from your back office or platforms such as like Transact and things like that, they will all basically appear in this list here. And any portfolios, obviously, that you've also created yourself. So whether that's you've created a portfolio for a client just to compare the existing solution, or it's your own range of models here. So yeah, you can scroll through, find whatever portfolios that you're sort of looking to do any work on. So what I will do is, obviously I've got quite a few portfolios here. I'm just going to search a portfolio and I'm going to add it to my active list. Now, the first thing I will show you again, it's very similar to the fund fact sheet, is just really quick buttons that we can pick here. So I can very quickly generate a medium scan. That's something that you can change in your settings if there's any reports that you'd be keen to use instead of a medium scan. But yeah, here it's going to show me everything that I I would expect to see in a medium scan, your portfolio comparison, ESG, ratios, asset allocation, sector split, things like that. And then I can obviously, again, save it, export it, do whatever I want with it. And yeah, like we did with the fund, I'm just going to keep everything same as and go ahead and generate a performance line chart and show you sort of different bits and pieces we can do from here. So you'll notice a slight difference between, I guess, the fund line chart versus the one that we've just created here. So there are these little sort of blocks which will happen every time the portfolio has been rebalanced. And if you do want to sort of show this within your reporting, maybe you're going through with a client sort of the benefits of rebalancing or, anything, that you'd be keen to show that with, basically we can go into options up here and select chart options, and I can essentially pick any point in time where this portfolio has been rebalanced and chart against that. So let's go for 2022, see what happens. And essentially in a second, it's going to pop up with another line basically to show me what would have happened had the portfolio not been rebalanced at that point. And you can see for this case, it's gone in my favor, and it obviously the portfolio is doing better now than it would have had it not been rebalanced in 2022. And yeah, you can just do what you'd like with that, save against a client, PDF, anything like that. Now, let's say I have, I guess, a client who's currently in a portfolio and I'd be looking to put them into one of my portfolios. I would usually just select their portfolio, or maybe I'd chuck it in from my back office system, or I would, or I'd have it maybe built in FE Analytics already. But let's say they're a completely new client and I'm looking to build their portfolio in. I'm just going to create a very, very basic portfolio here. And then what we can do is we can actually use this bulk code importer here. So I could go in and essentially click through again, sort of similar view to what you had at the start when you're selecting funds. You can go through by management group, universe, sector, things like that. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to pretend I have sort of like an Excel sheet or something like that, where I have the client's current codes, and basically I'm just going to copy and paste them into the bulk code importer. I think it can handle up to 1,000 codes, so it's definitely more yeah, it will definitely be more efficient than selecting them one by one if you do have the luxury of having that. And then the system will go and find these portfolios. I mean, these funds, sorry. Perfect. And I'm going to add these here now. Once I have these added in, I can then go ahead and add either the value in weights or units. I'm just going to equalize these as it's not a real portfolio, but I guess you'll probably have a couple more funds than these and need to sort of change that a little bit. So right now, the default in my settings is the FTSE All Share as the sort of benchmark. But if there's any other benchmarks that you need to use, you can do so through here. So I will change it to, doesn't really matter, and add that as a benchmark. But you can find any of your indices or add anything as a benchmark basically if the portfolio is needing to be benchmarked against something else. So now that we have sort of a very basic portfolio in here, we've got a couple of other sort of bits and pieces that might be useful to sort of take note of. So here we can convert the portfolio to historic. So if we want to put in any historic rebalancing or to take drift into account or anything like that, we would just select convert to historic and then backdate it essentially and sort of add new tabs in. Another thing to sort of consider is, your portfolio settings. So just making sure that you have your charges and things taken into account, especially if obviously your portfolios that you will then be putting the client in or proposing to put the client in will probably have that taken into consideration. So just to make sure everything is on the same playing field. And then other bits and pieces that we can do. So we can also save this portfolio and we can export this to FE Cash Calc once it's sort of saved. So just going to save that here. But essentially by exporting it out into FE Cash Calc, this will either generate a linear growth rate for you, or it will generate a growth rate based on the asset allocation template. So probably, if you are a Cash Calc user, it's probably a good practice just to sort of, as you are creating portfolios that you sort of need within Cash Calc, it's very easy just to select export to Cash Calc and then sort of go in that sort of option. So now that I have that saved and ready to go, I'm going to go in and add that one to my active list as well. And again, I'm just going to go back in with my performance line chart and basically compare the portfolios against one another, kind of going into that comparison aspect that we discussed at the beginning with the schedule. So I'll just quickly generate the chart of the performance line chart and wait for that to load. Just while we wait for that. Oh, it's happened pretty quickly. So then we have obviously the comparison from your what they're currently in versus the proposed solution. And yeah, as always, save PDF, do whatever you'd like with it. There's also different bits and pieces with the performance line chart, if you do want to sort of add different periods. So let's say you did want to sort of generate a chart with a couple of different options on it. You can do that as well, just to show. And then another thing that you can do with sort of your performance line charts is that you can change it here from percentage change to sort of, I think it's base change is what it's called. So yeah, you can have your multiple charts on the one screen. Just going to reset this and show you what I mean by it's index lump sum. So let's say you want to show a client basically in real terms what would happen were they in one portfolio versus were they in the next. You can start with whatever they're investing. So hopefully that's 200K. And we can go with that and generate a chart in them sort of terms. And then to go one step further, we can also start adding things like different indices. So in a second, we can compare this against CPI to show them exactly what this means in real terms for their money. Maybe I'll show you this with only one portfolio in it, so it's not too many things. But let's get rid of our example portfolio. And we're going to add a few indices here just in the indices tab. and I'm going to start searching. Again, you can select the drop downs if you're not sort of exactly sure what you're looking for. So we're going to add CPI. If you're ever just looking for an interest rate, just have to chuck in FE interest. So I'll do a 0% as if they're, you know, they had 200K under their bed or just literally not doing anything. I will then add a sort of a savings account. I'll add it at 2.75, and then obviously were they in the portfolio, and then generate off the back of that and see what happens. What we can do as well is I'm going to make it relative to CPI, and then sort of just to show the client maybe the benefits of investing versus sort of, you know, if they had it in their, you know, cash under the bed, cash in a savings account, there's obviously inflation and what it's doing, and then there's their money in sort of a real life scenario. And then again, you can save that against the client. You can always save. I would definitely recommend sort of having a using your sort of client tools up here and using your client manager to save against the clients and to make sure that sort of your research is all in the one place. So now another thing that we can do just based on the portfolio comparisons, just going to get rid of everything here. I'm going to get back my example portfolio. We can also create sort of different report types. So we can just generate a really quick portfolio comparison here. I am just going to compare it against this portfolio. I'm going to use the portfolio's own benchmark, but if you did want to use something else, you could just add it to your active list here or search for it here and generate a report quickly. So this, I guess, sort of concludes the portfolio piece, and we're transitioning into reporting now. If you obviously, we very, very briefly touched on sort of creating reports, but we have lots of different sort of YouTube videos and resources to kind of that goes into a little bit more depth about sort of creating your portfolios, but hopefully it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, here we've just simply compared two portfolios in the system. Again, it was obviously the one that I built myself versus an MPS solution that I've access to, but it would work the exact same way if I just imported that in, or if yeah, I'd access that portfolio in different ways. But this gives a nice side-by-side comparison of the portfolios. I'll just maximize there, and yeah, it would you can tailor this report as well if you sort of would like to, if maybe there's bits and pieces that you don't want to have in there. So I must have unchecked that at some point in time. But if there are sort of bits that you're looking to slot this into a report and you're looking to maybe not have some of these pieces visible, you're yeah, you're welcome to sort of customize things up here. And then obviously if you have notes and whatnot, there's these sort of fields of text boxes here that you can chuck things in. But that is sort of concluding the portfolio aspect of things. And now we'll go into a couple of more reports and bits that we can use. So up here again, we have sort of different reports. I'm going to show you the custom portfolio report builder. As mentioned before, right now I have the medium scan as a setting, but if you do find yourself liking other reports better and you'd like that to be sort of a quick shortcut for you, you can actually change that within your settings on this side. If you decide that you do prefer the custom portfolio report builder or anything like that. So I'm just going to quickly axe the portfolio that I created, and we can start building out our custom portfolio report builder. Now, obviously, the good thing about this report is it's completely customizable, as the name would suggest, and you can build various different templates. So I've got a couple of random templates on my system, but I have seen firms sort of use sort of things like, you know, bronze, silver, gold, 1, 2, 3, that sort of thing. You might have clients who like a lot of detail. You might have some that, you know, maybe wouldn't want that much detail, or maybe you use different reports at different stages of the year. Whatever way your business works, you can create these templates as sort of a once-off exercise, and then you can action them on whatever portfolios you're keen to do so once that it has been created. So we can, and obviously you can also do it on an ad hoc basis. If you have a very specific client and you know they like their reports in a specific way, you can save that against that report template. I'm just going to maximize this to show you. And here we can slot in anything sort of we're keen to have in the report. If you're unsure of what a section looks like, you can just click on it and it'll give you a short little preview. But I will just add a couple of bits and pieces. So performance report, see quite popular. I'll then maybe add some, maybe I'll add ESG, ratio analysis. You can slot in short scans, medium scans, long scans into here as well if you are keen to have that information there. I'll do a complete portfolio breakdown, a diversification benefit report, and I'm just, because I have that ESG in here, I'm just going to add the methodology so that the client sort of knows what, what it means essentially. And I will just save this as, and I won't save this against the client because maybe this is one that I want to use again and again and again. And we can go from there. Just give that a second to save. Fabulous. So now that we have a template in here, example template, I can action this on the current active list, which obviously is the portfolio that I want to use anyway. But if you, maybe you don't have anything in the active list, you can just use this drop down. It's the exact same drop down as in your portfolio tab when you've been searching there, or you can obviously search there as well. And you can make this super client facing as well. You can save this against clients. And I'm going to keep the cover page in here, keep a glossary, and keep the page marker. If you've got commentary throughout, you can also select this and sort of create that. But yeah, essentially this is going to create a report that will have your logo on it. It will be sort of have the date and things like that. So it's just super client facing. Obviously you saw it's extremely customizable. You can add as much or as little information as you'd like in there as well. And then yeah, something hopefully pretty easy to sort of slot in to an annual review or something like that. And we'll just wait for that to load. I did ask the system for quite a bit of information, so it might just take a second to load. Just jump in and see. See, we've got a couple of questions as well, which we'll get around to at the end. Perfect. So now we have the annual, well, this report. Obviously, I've customized the title, advisor name, things like that. And it will give me all the sections that I asked for. I asked for the portfolio summary, the ESG analysis, the ratio analysis, and then that full portfolio breakdown as well, and the diversification benefit report as well. We also have this glossary of terms. That was one of the sort of 4 boxes at the bottom, which you could select if you wanted the cover page glossary and things like that. Do you think it's a good addition if you are sending this straight to a client, just so that they can sort of understand the sort of lingo used within the report, and just sort of finishes it off quite nicely as well. And as I said, you can make this your default here if you'd like, just within your settings, sort of when you're going through that. So I believe the last thing we were going to go through was the attitude to risk sort of questionnaire that we have pre-built within the FE Analytics system. So to sort of go into that, we have it's within Client Tools. and we can go into the attitude to risk questionnaire. There's a couple of different ways that you can decide to sort of action the questionnaire. You can start right now, so I could be going through it face to face with the client and sort of fill it out as they go along. I could print it, I can email it, or I can, if I'd already printed it out, I could then quickly key in the answers just off the back of whatever the client's filled out at a paper form. This is also completely integratable with the with CashCalc. Essentially, it's the exact same questionnaire. It might look a little bit different because obviously they're two different bits of kit, but yeah, it's the exact same questions. So if you've sort of completed the questionnaire on CashCalc and you want to fire that information back across to FTK Analytics, you can do so, and vice versa. So just to quickly show you sort of maybe what the questions look like, I'll just start a new questionnaire as if I'm sort of with the client, and sort of go from there. I will save it against a new client. And then save. And then I will quickly go through this. I'm just going to go bang smack in the middle for the purposes of the demo, but feel free to have a look at the questions and see sort of what you sort of think. And then after these questions as well, there is a quick section on capacity of loss, which is at the very end here. So obviously at the end you saw I went for medium term, but obviously it will take into account the term length as well as sort of their risk level, and then obviously going into questions for capacity of loss. It's going to go no for these all. And then here we basically need to see if we agree or disagree with the answer that with the score that's been generated for this client. I'm going to keep things as is, and I'm going to set as the risk profile, and it will just prompt to make sure that you're okay with confirming this for the client. And now the attitude to risk has been successfully saved. So here what we can do is there's a few options at the bottom. So I might link to a portfolio, or I can PDF this if I want to send this to the client as well. So now within client tools, I'm just going to view all clients here. And I should be able to find Tom. And we'll see here, we've got one risk questionnaire. We haven't saved any portfolios or investment plans just yet. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Tom, and I'm going to launch up Investment Planner. I'll just go into Investment Planner through here. Just a quick note on using Investment Planner. Sometimes if you've got your pop-ups disabled, it might not come up. So if you're having any issues with accessing Investment Planner, that might be why. We also, you can also sort of access Investment Planner through this drop down here, rather than going through from your clients. But now I can go in and find Tom. Should probably just search and sort of start creating an investment plan. Now, because I haven't actually created an investment plan for Tom, I don't think he's showing up here. So I'll select the investment plan. And here's basically where I'm going to be able to compare his existing portfolio against the portfolio that I'm keen to get him into, and sort of we can generate switching reports and things like that, just off the back of that. And I'll link the current portfolio and save that. Now you can also complete that attitude to risk questionnaire within Investment Planner, or you can, as I said, you can already have completed that within CashCalc or through FE Analytics as well. And obviously I've already completed this, so I will keep what score I had previously. And then now we can go into the suitable portfolios. Now, these are portfolios that I or somebody in my business has linked to certain different risk profilers, basically. So now it will show me which portfolios within my system are deemed to be within this medium term slash a level 3 using the e-value scale. And essentially I can go in and select what portfolio that I'd be keen to sort of switch him to, or maybe I want to keep it the same. And I can generate different reports off the back of that. So this is the FE risk score. It's based on volatility, and it uses the FTSE 100 to sort of calculate this score. So obviously these aren't static, they're dynamic and they do change, but essentially you can go in and link your different portfolios to different levels using what sort of term they're using versus sort of what risk level they're at as well. So as you can see here, this is moderate and medium term, but you might have some overlap with portfolios that sort of slot into a couple of different sections within it. So now what I can do is I'm just going to quickly show you what a switching report looks like. And I'll let that download. We can also compare your selected portfolios. So maybe you're not quite ready to, you're maybe just starting your research, or you're not sure what portfolios. You can go in and just compare different portfolios against one another, and it will sort of give you the same output as the portfolio comparison reports. And now we're just going to wait for this to process. Just going to jump back into the questions, see if there's anything that we could potentially answer. I think most of them have been answered. I think it's mostly about sharing the video. I believe these are all recorded and should be on our YouTube page. So this is the portfolio switching report that I have created, and it will go through existing portfolio versus proposed portfolio solution and sort of where they sit in terms of performance, the diversification benefit, and then here we have the switch report. And then obviously a place for the client to sign and confirm that they're happy with any changes made. So I could PDF that, I mean, it's already PDF, sorry, I could save that and get that slotted in. I'm going to deselect this and I'm going to confirm selection. Now that I'm happy, I've created my switching report and I'm happy with that. I am going to complete plan. And then there's a couple of different bits and pieces I can do. So again, I can export this portfolio to CashCalc if I'd like to do that here. I can also go into this report center here. And here you can create a lovely report. I can attach the attitude to risk, possibility of losses, the comparison, the switching report, all into sort of one PDF report. Now this is a lot of information, so it might take a second to load. But if anyone has any questions in the meantime, please do, please do sort of ask. This is probably the last sort of thing I'm going to be generating. So yeah. So as I said at the beginning, I believe next week's session is sort of an introduction into goal-based financial planning. So everything to do with FE Cash Calc. So if you are a cash calc user or if you're looking at different sort of cash flow solutions or a bit curious to see how that works, please do feel free to sign up again. And also there is an extended version of sort of what's scheduling in the weeks to come on the Demo Day Wednesday site. And then here we have our document. Apologies for the delay in that one. And as you can see there, it was very much pop-ups are blocked. So if you're kind of struggling to access anything, please do feel free to sort of go through that. And then here is the portfolio report. Obviously, this will be completely within your branding. It won't say FE Fund Info, but we'll have the portfolio report for the client's name. And then I asked for the attitude to risk report. I asked for comparison report and bits like that. And then we have the signature report again. So that is sort of it, I think, for me today. I believe we also have a demo tomorrow based on some of the advisor asset solutions. So that's portfolio analysis tool within this section here. But yeah, please do follow up. If anybody has any questions, please do feel free to sort of pop them into the chat now. We have a couple of minutes left. Or if there's anything that you think of in hindsight, please do feel free to reach out and we'll sort of get that answered for you.